I spent the day nervous. At work, I could barely concentrate. Part of me was excited by the adrenaline, by the feeling of revenge, of finally doing something for myself. But another part was panicking. I knew I was wrong. I knew that, even though I thought Camila was cheating on me, I still loved her somehow. It still hurt to think about losing her. I got ready as if I were going on a first date. Perfume, new clothes. I even stopped by the barber on the way. My heart was pounding. I felt guilty, of course, but I was also excited. It was like jumping off a cliff blindfolded. When I parked in front of the motel gate, I took a deep breath and texted Letitia. I'm here. What I didn't know was that hell was about to begin. The motel was exactly what I wanted, discreet, a little far from the city, with a poorly lit entrance and few visible cameras. It was the kind of place that no one enters by accident. The automatic gate opened slowly, and I was guided by an employee in a simple uniform to one of the suites with a private garage. I didn't even have to get out of the car. I took the ticket, and would only pay when I left. Everything was very practical, very confidential, perfect. I parked, turned off the engine, and stood there for a few seconds. The silence of the place mixed with the muffled sound of my heart beating loudly. I sent another message to Letitia, telling her the suite number. She replied with an "I'm coming" followed by an emoji that made my stomach freeze with nervousness and anticipation. I was feeling kind of smart, as if I was finally taking part in the game that I thought was already going on behind my back. I got out of the car, went up to the room, and left the door just ajar, as she asked. I went back down to do one last check in the garage, a silly obsession with control, to check if everything was okay. That's when my eyes froze. A white car, same model, same license plate, same tacky sticker on the back window that I kept, implying, follow your dreams, they know the way. It was Camila's car, parked 2 suites away from mine. At that moment, my brain went haywire. I tried to think of some plausible explanation. Maybe it was just similar. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it was paranoia, but I knew. Every detail confirmed it. It was her car. Camila was there, in the same motel, at the same time, with someone. And at that moment, I knew that nothing would make sense from then on. For a few seconds, I stood, still, just staring at the car as if, by some miracle, it would evaporate and all of that would turn into just a delusion. But it didn't. It was Camila's car. I could recognize it even with my eyes closed. The scratch on the right side, the leopard print steering wheel cover, the vanilla air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. It was hers. Without a doubt, my heart was racing so fast that I thought I was going to faint. A mix of anger, fear, adrenaline, and a strange kind of sick excitement took over me. It was as if everything had turned into a scene from a movie, except I was the main character in a tragic comedy. I went back up to my room, but I couldn't stay still. I left the door ajar and discreetly peeked down the hallway. The garage of the suite where the car was still was open, but there was no sign of anyone. I waited until I heard voices, muffled laughter, and then she appeared. Cam, ILA, wearing a tight dress with impeccable makeup, holding the hand of a guy I had never seen in my life, dark-haired, tall, with a half-unbuttoned dress shirt, looking very comfortable in that situation. She was laughing, as if she was living the best moment of the week, as if nothing was wrong, as if I didn't exist. My blood rushed instantly. Before I could think, I was already walking towards them. "Camila," I blurted out, loud enough to echo. She froze. The guy stopped too, looking at me as if trying to figure out if this was real or some kind of prank on a TV show. She blurted out, her eyes wide, as if she had seen a ghost. Her hand immediately let go of his dot. The silence lasted about 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Letitia, who had just arrived and was getting out of the car, saw the scene and understood everything immediately. "Oh, bro, you're kidding me," she muttered, turned on her heel, and got into the car without even looking back. Camila approached, shocked. "What are you doing here? Me? What am I doing here?" I started laughing, a nervous, almost hysterical laugh. "I came to cheat on my girlfriend, and it seems I found her." Doing the same thing, the guy next to her seemed about to evaporate. He started walking backwards, mumbling something like, "Sorry, I didn't know you were," but he didn't even finish. He jumped in the car and reversed so fast that he almost hit the gate. Camila stared at me. Her perfect makeup was already starting to smudge. "Were you going to cheat on me?" "You were cheating on me too." I cheated on my girlfriend and found out she was in the same motel as me, like in the same place, on the same day, at the same time. And no, it wasn't a plan, it wasn't a prank, it was simply the worst or maybe the fairest day of my life. My name is Lucas. I'm 26 years old, and or rather I was, in a relationship with Camila for almost 4 years. We met in college. We started dating without any expectations, and before we knew it, we were already living together in a small apartment, sharing bills, responsibilities, and less love. In the last few months, things started to go downhill. There wasn't a big fight or an obvious betrayal, at least not yet, but the atmosphere was strange. She was more distant. She was always on her cell phone. She would go out to meet friends and come back late without giving much explanation. I, on the other hand, started to feel invisible. Conversations became cold. Sex became an exception. And any attempt I made to get closer was met with an "I'm tired" or an impatient sigh. It was obvious that something was wrong, and honestly, part of me had already accepted that the end was near. But another part wanted to fight back. And that's when all the trouble started. In the beginning, our relationship was everything everyone dreams of. Lots of laughter, conversations, until dawn. A desire to be together all the time. Camila was funny, intelligent, a bit cheeky in a charming way, and I was the guy who did everything to please her. Quick trips on the weekends, silly surprises like notes left on the coffee table, sleepless nights watching series that neither of us really liked, just to cuddle on the couch. It was light, it was good, but time passed, and what was light became routine. College ended, work got harder for both of us, and we started falling into that automatic cycle. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, and in the midst of all this, the U.S. got smaller and smaller. We started fighting over silly things. Wet towels on the bed, dishes in the sink, time on the phone. Things that we used to laugh about became reasons for silent arguments, the kind where no one shouts, but silence weighs more than any words. Camila started to change. She started responding to messages later, making up commitments that she didn't explain properly, and always seemed fed up when I suggested any plans for the two of us. When I tried to bring up the subject of us, she would avoid it. She would say it was just a phase, that I was exaggerating, that everything was normal. But nothing was normal. I could feel it. I started paying more attention. She was more vain. She started going out alone more often. Her phone became an extension of her body, always facing down, with notifications on silent. And me, I became paranoid. I started to think she was cheating on me. That feeling in my stomach when she left. The urge to check her phone and the fear of finding something. The constant feeling of being made a fool of. I talked to some friends. One of them, Bruno, was blunt. "Dude, if she's cheating on you, do the same. Go live your life too." At first, I thought it was absurd. I had never cheated on anyone. I was always the faithful guy who believed in resolving everything through conversation. But over time, the idea started to make sense. If she was playing dirty, why did I have to be the good guy? It was on one of those frustrating nights, after seeing her leave again without telling me where she was going, that I downloaded Tinder. It wasn't even to meet someone for real. At least that's what I told myself. It was just to see what was out there. But all it took was a heated conversation with a girl named Letitia for me to start planning what would turn out to be the biggest mistake or karmic rightness of my life. I met Letitia on Tinder. Blonde, green eyes, an easy smile, and a direct manner that took me by surprise. No beating around the bush. On the second day of our conversation, she blurted out, "When are we going to see each other?" with that naughty emoji that, for a guy in my mental state, was like gasoline on the fire. The conversation with her was the opposite of what I experienced at home. Letitia complimented everything, from my taste in music to the way I wrote. It was a festival of attention, something I hadn't felt in months. Soon, the messages evolved into discreet nudes, hotter conversations, until the inevitable, we agreed to meet up. We set it up for a Thursday night. Camila said she was going to go out with a friend from work and sleep over at her place. I didn't even question it. In fact, I thanked her internally. I would have the night off, and, ironically, so did she. I chose a remote, discreet motel, with an individual entrance through a garage, the kind where you drive your car straight into the room. I wanted anonymity. I wanted to do everything without the chance of being seen, without the risk of crossing paths with someone I knew. I knew you were acting weird. I could feel it. I just wanted to see if it was true. And it was. Congratulations. You won. We stood staring at each other in the middle of a cheap motel parking lot, both of us shaking, our eyes burning. I was shaking with anger, she with embarrassment, or maybe it was just adrenaline. The irony of it all was so absurd that it was impossible to tell if we were fighting or laughing. She turned her back, got in the car, and drove away without saying anything else, and I was left there, standing still, alone. To cheat on, being cheated on, I went home with my head spinning. I only remember the feeling of a lump in my throat and the question that kept going around in my head. How did we get to this point? I got to the apartment and everything was there. Our photos on the wall, the blanket she loved on the couch, the cup she used every day to drink coffee. I went in, sat on the living room floor, and stared into space for a long time I can't measure. The notification on my phone broke the silence. It was a message from her. I didn't want it to be like this. It took a few minutes for me to respond. And then a tense conversation began, full of accusations, ironies, and failed attempts to explain the inexplicable. She said she only did it because she was sure I was already doing it. We became two crooked mirrors, reflecting each other in a cycle of anger, hurt, and wounded pride. We tried to talk in person 2 days later. It was awful. The atmosphere was like a funeral. We didn't even know where to start. Neither of us had the strength to fight. There was no more trust, no more respect, just a minefield of resentment. And it was there, sitting on the same couch where we used to watch series hugging each other, that we decided to break up. Camila confessed that she had been suspecting things for months. She said she thought I was strange, distant, cold, and that, in a fit of anger and pain, she decided to get even. She met that guy at a bar. They exchanged messages for a few days and ... it was a date. The truth is that we had already lost each other long before that night at the motel. That scene was just the symbolic end of a relationship that was already on life support. The mistake started much earlier, when we stopped really talking, when we stopped caring, when we started ignoring the signs. Cheating wasn't revenge. It was desperation, neediness, wounded pride, and it ended up becoming a badly told cosmic joke. Did I learn anything from all of this? Yes. That when you feel like you're being betrayed, the worst thing you can do is stoop to the same level. And if the relationship has reached a point where the only solution seems to be cheating back, waiting, as if the universe had said, "You deserve this,"